happens when a roof nearly collapses, but two people choose to keep building together instead of giving up. Hello everyone, hope you're having a great day. Today, we're going to explore the moment when Quang and Linda face a dangerous setback while building their roof, and how that near failure brings them closer than ever. If you enjoy stories about teamwork, patience, and quiet turning points, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Good morning starts quietly, the kind of quiet that makes every sound feel louder than usual. Quang wakes up early, steps outside, and takes a moment to look around at the unfinished space in front of him. There's no roof yet, no real shape to call it a house, just materials stacked unevenly and the promise of something more. He takes a deep breath, stretches his shoulders, and gets to work. He begins by organizing the materials for the foundation. Stones are moved into neater piles, tools are laid out so they're easy to grab. Every movement is calm, methodical, like he's already done this 100 times in his head. As he works, Linda comes out, still a little sleepy, watching him for a moment before asking what the plan is for today. Quang explains it clearly. He tells her he's going to head out to cut trees for the roof beams. The foundation work needs to continue, so he asks her to stay back, help clean up the area, and move the smaller stones closer to where they'll be needed. He doesn't sound commanding, just practical, like this is something they're doing together. Linda listens carefully, nods, and agrees without hesitation. She doesn't argue or question the plan. Instead, she asks where exactly he wants the stones placed and whether there's anything heavy she should avoid lifting alone. That small exchange sets the tone for the day. It's the first time their cooperation feels smooth, natural, almost effortless. Before leaving, Quang pauses and reminds her to take breaks and not rush. Linda smiles and tells him not to worry, that she can handle it. As he walks away with his tools, there's a sense that something has shifted. They're not just surviving side by side anymore. They're starting to build something with intention. While Quang is away, Linda gets to work. She clears scattered debris, wipes down tools, and slowly moves stones one by one. It's tiring, but she doesn't complain. With every stone she places, she imagines where the walls might rise, where a door could be, where they might sit once everything is finished. The work feels different when there's a future attached to it. When Quang returns later, carrying freshly cut wood, he notices immediately. The area looks more organized, more purposeful. He gives Linda a brief nod of approval, not saying much, but the look on his face says enough. That quiet acknowledgement means more than praise. As they take a short break, sitting on a stack of wood, the conversation drifts to the house itself. Quang talks about how close they are now, how once the roof is done, the place will finally feel like a home instead of a project. Linda listens, her eyes following the rough outline of the structure. Quang then brings up an idea. He suggests using bamboo from his uncle's garden for the roof. He explains that the bamboo there is mature, strong, and surprisingly durable. It's been growing for years, and if treated properly, it can last a long time. Plus, there's plenty of it, which means they won't have to worry about running out halfway through. Linda considers it for a moment, then agrees. She likes the idea of using something natural and familiar, something that already belongs to the land around them. It feels right, like the house will be connected to its surroundings instead of standing apart from them. With that decision made, they move on to the next step. They start measuring the bamboo and the existing beams, checking lengths, comparing thickness, and marking pieces that can be used together. Quang handles most of the measuring, while Linda keeps track of the pieces, handing him tools when he needs them. There's an unspoken rhythm forming between them. He measures, she marks. He lifts, she steadies. They don't talk much, but they don't need to. The cooperation feels intuitive, like they're slowly learning how to move around each other without friction. As they work, the idea of the finished house starts to feel real. It's no longer just a vague hope. There's a clear path forward now, from the foundation to the roof, step by step. That realization brings a quiet excitement, a sense that they're crossing an invisible line from planning to becoming. By the time they finish measuring, the sun is already high. They take another short break, looking at the materials laid out neatly, ready for the next phase. There's still a lot to do, but for the first time, it doesn't feel overwhelming. Quang stands up, dusts off his hands, and says it's time to bring the bamboo back. Linda nods, ready to help however she can. Neither of them says it out loud, but both are thinking the same thing. This roof isn't just the next task, it's a turning point. They carry the bamboo back together, piece by piece. Some of the poles are long and awkward, forcing them to slow down and adjust their grip. Every now and then, they stop to rest, leaning the bamboo against a tree or laying it gently on the ground. Even in the pauses, there's no impatience, just steady focus. Once everything is back at the site, Quang starts sorting through the bamboo, selecting the straightest pieces for the main sections of the roof. He explains which ones will work best and which need more preparation. Linda listens closely, asking questions, learning as they go. It's not just physical labor anymore. It feels like shared problem solving. Quang sets up a ladder and checks its stability twice before climbing. He tells Linda where to stand and what to watch for, reminding her to keep an eye on the bamboo as he lifts it into place. She positions herself below, holding nails and tools, ready to pass them up when he asks. As Quang climbs higher, the mood shifts slightly. The work becomes more intense, more careful. He balances on the beams, adjusting his footing, testing each step before committing his weight. Linda watches closely, her hands tightening around the bamboo pole she's holding. He signals for the first piece, and together they lift it. Linda steadies the bottom while Quang guides the top into position. For a moment, everything seems fine. The bamboo rests against the frame, almost perfectly aligned. Then, suddenly, it slips. The bamboo shifts to one side, the frame creaks, and for a split second, it feels like the entire roof structure might collapse. Linda gasps, instinctively stepping back, while Quang freezes, gripping the beam as tightly as he can. "Wait," he says sharply, trying to keep his balance. Linda rushes forward again, bracing the bamboo with all her strength. Her heart is pounding, but she doesn't let go. Quang adjusts his footing, slowly guiding the bamboo back into place. The structure settles, just barely holding. For a few seconds, neither of them moves. They just breathe. Then Quang lets out a short laugh, half relief, half disbelief. Linda follows, her laughter shaky but genuine. The tension breaks, replaced by a shared sense of, "We almost messed that up." Quang climbs down carefully and examines the bamboo more closely. He notices the slight curve in it, the uneven moisture that makes it weaker than it looks. He explains that some pieces need to be dried first, otherwise they won't hold properly. Linda nods, feeling both relieved and a little embarrassed for panicking. Quang reassures her, saying it's better to stop now than risk everything later. They move the weaker bamboo aside and lay it out in the sun, arranging it so air can circulate and help it dry evenly. As they work, the earlier scare starts to feel like a lesson rather than a failure. They're reminded that building something real takes patience, and rushing only creates bigger problems. That realization settles between them, quiet but solid. After a short rest, they return to the roof with better pieces. This time, the process is smoother. Quang moves with more confidence, and Linda anticipates what he needs before he asks. She passes nails at the right moment, steadies beams without being told, and keeps her eyes on the structure as a whole. There's another small wobble, but this time they handle it calmly. Quang adjusts the angle, Linda shifts her grip, and the bamboo settles into place without drama. They exchange a quick look, a shared smile that says, "We've got this." The roof slowly begins to take shape. One beam at a time, the outline becomes clearer. From a distance, it finally looks like more than just poles and wood. It looks like shelter. As the afternoon light softens, they pause again. Quang sits on a beam, wiping sweat from his forehead, while Linda hands him some water. He thanks her quietly. She shrugs it off, but there's warmth in the exchange. They look up at the roof together. It's not finished yet, and there's still plenty of work ahead, but the hardest part feels behind them. The earlier fear has turned into motivation, proof that even when things nearly fall apart, they can fix them together. Quang mentions that once the bamboo fully dries, the roof will be even stronger. Linda says she doesn't mind waiting a little longer if it means doing it right. Her words linger in the air, carrying more meaning than just construction advice. As the day winds down, they start packing up the tools. The site is quieter now, the structure standing still against the evening sky. There's a sense of progress that's impossible to ignore. Before heading inside, Quang takes one last look at the roof and says, almost to himself, that it's starting to feel real. Linda agrees, her voice soft. For the first time, the idea of living there doesn't feel distant or uncertain. It feels close, tangible, within reach. They walk away from the site together, tired but satisfied. Behind them, the unfinished roof waits patiently, a symbol of both their effort and their growing determination. Tomorrow, there will be more challenges, but for now, they've proven something important. Even when things almost collapse, they can still choose to keep building.
Chiều xuống, Linda buồn bã vì con rối của mình đã biến mất. Nghi có kẻ trộm rình quanh nhà. CEO Quang ghé đến lắng nghe và trấn an và tự sửa chiếc camera cũ trong kho, kéo dây lắp trước sân nhà để bảo vệ cô. Đêm đến, Linda nấu cơm nếp cẩm mời anh ở lại ăn. Hai người trò chuyện lòng ấm lại. Quang kể áp lực công ty, camera nháy sáng, bóng lạ thoáng qua, và không biết Linda có sống sót qua được đêm nay không. Mọi người nếu thấy video hay, hãy cho mình một like, một subscribe. Cảm ơn mọi người nhé.